And we're live. Well, today I have with me Meg Schlabs. She's the co-founder as at Wizardly, and um, yeah, I'd love for you to just tell me a little bit more about yourself and your agency.
Thank you, David. I'm Meg. I live in Charleston, South Carolina, and I've got three kids. I have a business partner, Josh, who lives in Nashville. He's actually relocating to South Carolina. We've been together for maybe 12, 13 years, building websites, building brands, doing design projects. And we finally looked up one day and kind of made it official. So we launched our agency together in 2006, and it's been going great. So that's a little bit about me in a nutshell. I love Charleston. I love the food, love the art, culture, access to the beach. It's a wonderful place to raise a family. So I'm really lucky to live here.
That's amazing. Yeah, I've heard great things about Charleston. Well,
Yeah.
you mentioned 2006. So I mean, I feel like a lot of the agency folks I talk to, um, have only been at it maybe for the last 5 years or something like that. So you've probably seen a lot of different, economic things happen. Just have a lot of experience. What got you into the agency world in the first place?
Okay. Well, first I have to say that I misspoke because 2006 is not correct. It's
Oh,
2016.
oh,
So
16.
yeah. So yeah, like that's a huge problem. Sorry. We have been together for 12, 13 years since 2012, but we made Wizardly official in 2016. So
Oh,
it really
gotcha.
been, I like plus my years by a decade. But yeah, so what was the question? Because I get distracted by the
Yeah,
phone
yeah, no
call.
worries. Yeah, just what inspired you to get into the agency world in the first place?
Oh my gosh.
What was
We
the
wanted more
trigger that made it all
time.
happen?
Yeah, we wanted more time with our families. And Josh and I, as I mentioned, we had been working together for maybe 5, 6 years, and the workload just became crushing at one point. I want to say there was a company who probably I wouldn't work for again. They were one of those that like just churn and burn you, and the
Hmm.
deadline is always yesterday. And we were so young in the biz and didn't realize how much we were setting a precedent of saying yes immediately and just jumping to however high they raised the bar, we would just jump there. And we looked up one day and realized that we were just working too many hours a week. I had small kids. Josh, I think, was starting to think about having kids in his family, and we didn't want that kind of life. So for us, very naively, it was a choice to build an agency so that there weren't just four hands anymore. There were 16 hands. There was always a crew around to pass the work to and share that load. Um, what we didn't realize at the time was that it takes more time to build a business. You can't just say, okay, now you do my job and I'm going to go focus on sales and building proposals and stuff like that. There is a lot of work that goes into making a company community, a company like the finance and building that, scaling that. So we went into it kind of eyes wide shut, and didn't really understand that at the time. So that was definitely a mistake I made, but it
Yeah,
was
well,
the
can you
yeah, the
yeah,
impetus was having way too much work. So
yeah, and wanting to basically have a little more balance in your life, not
yes.
only like work life but home life probably it sounds like.
Right. Yeah, we did. And we also both had a passion for teaching. Josh was a teacher before. Um, I'd never dipped my toes in that water before, but I really love the idea of, as a human, just passing along the information that I'm given for free out in the world, just as like, hey, I believe in giving back. Let me teach you what I know. Um, we've learned a lot by through making good choices or making bad ones, and I don't know. I feel like that a younger generation that's coming up behind us that is maybe more apt to be in that freelance world post COVID, maybe they need some of these tools we've learned along the way. So I do that with my own kids, and I'm trying to do that as a human. So that's one of my soapboxes.
I like that.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you mentioned some of these lessons already, but are there any other sort of mistakes or lessons that you feel like you've learned so far in your agency journey that you feel like could maybe give other younger agencies a little bit of an advantage or at least a head start and not making the same mistakes?
Yeah. I that is such a good question. I think that when Josh and I decided to build Wizardly, I wish that as 50-50 partners, we had come together right at the beginning and decided what kind of company we wanted to build. And just like do our own branding. I mean, we do this with clients all the time, our own branding strategy of identifying mission, vision, our own value propositions, our target audience, like just all the basics. If Josh and I had done that right at the start in 2016, and we knew what we were in for, we knew we had some groundwork for being partners, we had some groundwork for hiring and all that stuff, all the SOPs, all the stuff that's just really, really important. If we had done that, I feel like we would have had a less bumpy start to our agency life. And instead, I think, just decided to put a label on the products and offerings we were already offering to the general public, and it was more of the same. It was like, oh, we already do this, design, website build, and development. Let's just do more of it and add some team members in. And what it did is it just complicated our lives, and we didn't know what was coming down the future. We didn't know what we had committed to, and it caused a bit of a breakdown between our partnership, which I speak very openly about because Josh and I went through tough times as partners, times where we weren't aligned with our business goals, or we probably were aligned, but we couldn't communicate well about that. So we didn't know where each of us wanted to go in business and whether we were still a good fit for moving forward. So we had a really rough year. I want to say it was like 2020 COVID, like it was already rough for all of humans.
Yeah.
And it became very rough for us because a ton of our sales ticked up. Everybody needed something digitally. People were launching new products. So we were at this confluence where we had a new agency and we didn't quite know where we were headed and didn't know our 5, 10-year, 15-year goals for a company. And then we thought we had a lot of work in 2016, but 2020 was like double that. And then our communication skills just broke down as business partners, and we weren't able to share our frustrations very openly, and there was a lot of hurt that went into that year. I will say this is so beautiful, that I've never seen a relationship get that sour and then be able to recover so beautifully. And it taught me as a human to not give up on people and to not give up on myself, to know that I am capable of bigger changes than I thought I was capable of. And so to continue to invest in relationships and communication first, and being able to share your goals but own your emotions, like all this stuff, we just went through such a time where I would say our partnership looked wildly different pre-2020 than it does right now. And our ability to work through frustrations, our ability to come together, make decisions, it's just a really cool thing. So that was probably one of my biggest lessons in life. Yeah. Do you have a partner?
I don't, no.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's something I've definitely explored and considered. And maybe down the road it'll happen. But yeah, I've basically heard stories on both sides, people who would never do it again and people who, uh, are actively looking for one because they don't feel like they can do it alone, or some people who swear by it because, like they can focus on the biz dev and the other side can focus on the operations. And it's a really good sort of symbiotic relationship.
Yeah.
You mentioned something. Yeah, you mentioned something about like, you regretted kind of not having like a 5, 10, 15-year plan. And it sounded like that's something that in retrospect you would recommend to folks. Can you maybe
Yeah.
kind of talk about what you feel like that brings to the table, what that would add, or maybe, what that would prevent
Yeah.
if you had
Yeah.
that in place?
I think it's vital for any company. I think it's even more so important when you have a 50-50 partnership. And I think it's probably the linchpin of whether a company and a partnership can exist together for a long period of time, which Josh and I have been for 11 years, and whether it's just a seasonal thing. And here's why I think it matters is if you're not planning ahead for the next 5, 10, 15 years, you're not goal setting, you're not deciding how you plan to run your company, how you plan to hire, how you plan to position your brand, who you're going after, then you're just lost up. You're caught up in the urgent. You're caught up in the, oh, this client needs this now. You can't separate yourself from projects and from the practice that you do as designer, developer, whatever you do, creative direction, and something which is higher. And I feel like when Josh and I now are able to put on our leadership hats and decide to sit together for an hour to make plans for our team or our clients or our culture or anything like that, what we're doing is a completely different job than what we do when we come to work and we work on a project with our team. And if you don't know that, then you're gonna crash and burn yourself out, because you're not gonna put on a sales hat and be like, I'm gonna work on this sales hat now. I'm gonna work on this, landing this project. Can my team accomplish this? Can we pull it off? Like, you're asking completely different questions when you put on those multiple hats. And so if it's not crystal clear, like for instance, Josh and I, it wasn't crystal clear what we were in for. And so we were butting heads on the minutia and the details of getting the work done every day. Rather than when we hit our reset, we decided, let's work on this relationship, let's work on our partnership and go back to ground zero. We went away for a weekend together in Nashville. We had some business coaches come in and talk to us. And the first thing they did is, well, where do you want to be in 5 years? Like, let's separate you two for a second. And you write down what kind of job you want for the next 5 years. You write down what kind of job you want. Write down what kind of company you want to build. And we did this separately. And when we looked at our papers, it was the same thing. So we had agreed to go on this journey together. And when you could do that, then trickling down from there, you can make decisions that help you reach that goal. It's so clarifying, because if something comes in the way that's not helping us reach that goal, it's just, we don't spend time on it. It doesn't matter to us. It's like, it might be a good idea, but we decided to do this last year. Right. So we're still on that track. Anyway, I'm talking too much. Interrupt me. What did I say?
But it sounds like it's basically like this unifying sort of practice or exercise that, which is really important when you have a partner. Like if it was just you, it's like, well, yes, it's probably a good exercise for you independently to do that, just to kind of have an idea of where you're heading and know how to prioritize things. But especially when you have other stakeholders involved, having that sort of unifying document or just vision that you're centering everything around. That's super interesting.
So sorry, one small tangent off of that, because my sister and my best friend, another agency owner friend that I have, they all are head of the ship. So they actually still struggle with this, and what they need is somebody to bounce this idea off of in a regular way. So a lot of those people have found success by hiring some fractional operations teams or fractional finance or, what else? One of my friends is hiring even just a fractional admin team to be like, hey, you got to push back on me. Did I set my goals? You have a list of my goals. And I want to do this marketing idea. Does this match? Confront me, make sure that this is right before I march off, because it's so isolating to be alone. Anyway.
Yeah, seriously. Having another set of ears and eyes to kind of give you feedback, especially when you're solo, can be really, really important.
Yeah, totally.
Well, switching gears a little bit, you've been at this for a little while now. How do you think about the most effective way for growing your client base?
Oh gosh, wow. Well, I will say that we are at the beginning stages of having to market ourselves. So we're probably only 2 years into running marketing campaigns, spending money on marketing. And so I don't want to come off like an expert, because I'm still learning and growing every day. I've actually taken the lead on sales and marketing for our company the last 2 years. And the first thing that I learned was how much I don't know, especially about marketing, how it's a numbers data game. And if you don't have your data and ducks in a row in that regard, you're not going to be successful. But I am having a little success on LinkedIn. We have like a cold outreach program going right now on LinkedIn. We're having a ton of success using a referral program. So basically, we give a cut to any past client and any independent marketing consultant if they bring us a project, and it's 5% up to $2,500. So anybody who wants to sell our services, our company, if you like what we do, go do it. Like, you'll make money in the meantime. That has actually brought us the most business. And then I'm, just regular SEO, have a lot of blogs out in the world, peddling all the content, all the places, stuff like that. So I'm working on some quizzes right now, which I think are fun. So that's new. Yeah. What about you?
Related.
You have
What's
any? You have any marketing tips I can learn from?
Oh man, I could talk a ton about marketing. I mean, that's what I did for 10 years in-house before working for myself.
Really?
Yeah. So
Cool.
I worked in multiple agencies, not client facing, but just doing the marketing for the agencies. And I mean, uh, honestly, the big three pillars that I talk to agencies about are getting your positioning down.
Yeah.
Because agencies can really, end up entering into a sea of sameness if they
Yeah.
don't try to be really deliberate about their positioning. Partnerships is another huge one. You
Yeah.
kind of hit on that with the referral program, but I think understanding, with on the positioning side, you understand who your ideal client really is and what their pain is. On this partnership side, it's finding out, okay, who else serves them? Like, what other vendors do they have in their ecosystem that you could be referring out to? And that after you do that, you could establish mutual sort of referral
Yeah.
relationships with them. And then lastly, publishing. Like, the more you know who you're talking to, the easier it's going to make your content engine. If you're trying to talk to too many different folks, you're going to end up either doing really general content, trying to speak to all of them at once, or you're going to have to be doing a lot more content because you're having to switch which audience you're talking to each time. So,
Yeah. Good
but
point.
yeah, I mean, there's I could probably speak for a long time on that and on,
Well, I'm
other facets of that
gonna
too.
pick your brain just for a minute because I know you have a lot to offer this podcast as well. So, when you say brand positioning, how do you make that into a marketing funnel? Like, what actions do you take after establishing brand position to push it out into the world?
So as far as like, tactics,
Yeah,
essentially.
exactly.
Yeah. What I see as working really well right now, is, depending on the size of um, your firm and I guess what sort of contracts and things like that look like for you. I would say, um, kind of basically social selling and sharing thought leadership content on LinkedIn. That's
Hmm.
kind of a good way to get awareness. Mention the partnerships piece. I think that's really, really important for kind of getting these, golden goose relationships where instead of closing one client, in isolation, you can work on developing these deeper relationships with potential partners that are just a steady stream of ongoing, warm leads coming to you because they're coming in through word of mouth. Um,
I see.
so
Yeah, that totally makes
yeah,
sense.
I think that's some of the top ones that come to mind. But we could definitely chat more about this
Okay,
further if you
let's
want
do
to dig in. For yeah,
it.
um, but yeah, I think I guess maybe related to this, how do you think about um, your own unique value and how you communicate that to clients?
Mm. Yeah, this is a really important question, because I heard this from Daniel Priestley, so it's not mine, but like, doing good work is baseline. Like, doing good work is not going to be a differentiator for you anymore, because everybody's out there doing good work. Like, we have so much good competition when we hit a client in a sales room. And so one of the things that we emphasize the most as a company, I think this really fits Josh and I's personality too, is the communal approach to branding, because as we know, it doesn't take a ton of time to create a brand. What does take a ton of time is getting client buy-in to that brand, so that when you're ready to launch the brand, everybody is they know how you got there. They know why you're making this certain choices. So you've led them really, really well along the way, and you have reasons why you chose a certain design style. You chose a certain curved edge but instead of a sharp edge. And so we emphasize the community first, I would say, and then we go into another stealing from Priestley is we emphasize that we're problem solvers to the end. So this is sometimes a post-launch differentiator that we bring it back in the room, because we try to stay on with our clients to be ongoing design support. We have design subscriptions, etc., all that stuff. So, and we like to care for them long term if they'll have us. A lot of time, our clients have wonderful design teams and marketing teams. And then some have a great marketing team. They don't have a design team, so that's where we come in. But the second differentiator that we try and pull up is that problem solving piece, because it doesn't matter if it's a one page white page in Canva. Like, if that's their main problem today, like, we can tackle it in an hour. So where have you been? Where do you want to go? And what's standing in the way? And that's where Wizardly tries to come in and say, is it just like you're stuck on money? You don't have money for us to design 50 business cards? Well, let us do a template and then connect you with somebody who can do that really, really cheaply and free. What is it that we can do to just solve your problem in the way that you need it solved? So it's really an other focused, like, let's get brass tacks about what you can afford and how we can assist. And then we're both being honest about that right from the start. So I think the problem solving piece is really, really important, because a lot of times agencies, well, we're struggling this year. We've been struggling for a while, but we're really struggling this year. So we really do need to tack things up, by like, just to make it, because our leads aren't coming in the door. And when they do, people aren't wanting to spend the amount of money. So it would be really easy for me to charge like $1,500 for, a business card. But then we wouldn't maintain that relationship. We wouldn't be able to make it till their next hurdle. So we try and take that approach whenever possible. Like, we have I'm gonna stop there.
No, I mean, I think that
passionately.
you mentioned something that I think really resonated with me around kind of trying to really understand their particular circumstances. Like, I think a lot of times in sales, at least, there's sort of this expectation that you have, when you have a hammer, everything looks like a nail. You
Yeah.
don't want to come out and be like, hey, we have this service, everybody needs it, and we can't change it at all. I feel like it's a lot more effective when you say, tell me more about your challenge. Give me details. Like, let's kind of explore this and really make sure we have the full picture of what your circumstance is. And then we can talk about, hey, would this thing solve that? What if we did this? Would that solve that? And so you're collaborating with them on a solution, rather than trying to kind of shoehorn them into something that maybe wouldn't work super well.
Yeah, yeah. And don't you think, David, like, that's just sales in general? Like, if you can really force a client to identify what their problem is, that's like 90% of the battle, because then you're listening, for one. Then you're thinking on their terms, like, what problems do they have? And you're not in the room saying, well, we do this, 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 this. Like, here it is, take it or leave it. Like, I don't know. I don't think that's good sales. Especially if
Yeah,
you
no,
have a toolkit with like an arsenal of tools in your kit, and you know you could bring things out little by little or as needed. You don't have to sell the whole kit. Anyway.
yeah, I'm with you 100%. Well, you mentioned this kind of in part of your last answer around, um, you have some retainer clients, and you're trying to kind of make sure you're just doing what your clients need. Um, are there any other strategies that you try to stick to when it comes to like client satisfaction and retaining your clients as best as possible?
Yeah. So when I was 20, I had the most amazing boss, and she reminded me, and I say this to our employees all the time, if you did your job but you didn't tell your boss you did your job, then you didn't really do your job, because that person doesn't know. So one of the things that we do quite often is just remind clients what we did for them every week already. So we're staying in their inboxes. How can I help today? What do you need? Also, we're not actually in their inboxes. All of our magic clients who are on a retainer with us, which is um, 40 to 50 clients, they have Slack access to us. So that's an immediate tap back. You know, we have systems in place where clients are feeling like we're in the problem with them, we're in the moment with them, and we're trying to remove barriers. So so that's one, Slack access, um, letting them know every week, hey, looking back, we completed these 9 design requests from you. Here's a track record. Here's what's going out into your invoice. And then third, I would say, I lost my train of thought, but the third thing is, just meeting with them. Especially, I think it's important that you meet with them in a really timely way. So we try and know when our CMOs have just met with their CEOs and been given a long list of probably unrealistic design tasks to do, or
Yeah.
a request. And if we can be that next hour, if we can be that next morning where they've had time to digest it, and we can say, okay, what's on the docket? Like, what do you have cooking, and how can we help? For example, we were just having a meeting with a friend at a CMO at a big company, and she was like, "Oh, I have to do this like design installation, like interior design, and I have no idea where to start." I hired an interior design company, and they showed us a few things that just didn't look great, and I was like, "Well, like I have a pretty great GPT. Let me just see if I can like get you there using some good prompts. You know, like my GPT knows me, and I think I could like get you some mock-ups." And we showed them. And we don't do interiors. You know, we are a design, like graphic design branding company. But we showed her the stuff GPT made, and it was great. She's going with it, so it was fun.
Nice. Yeah, I like that. Just basically communication. It sounds like a lot of it comes back down to is just like making sure that you're um, communicating well and frequently, so that
Yeah,
it doesn't feel like you're just kind of doing some work and meeting and then doing nothing in between or something.
yeah. Exactly.
Absolutely. Well, I guess another type of retention that we could talk about is your team. Bringing people on, bringing the right people on, and then keeping the right people around. How do you think about talent, and yeah, getting the right people on the bus?
Yeah. Well, let me just start by saying that I think the talent that we have has very little to do with us and so much to do with the people we happened to get in touch with to be on our team. Like, they are just literally gems, so valuable, such hard workers. And I'm really impressed with I don't think it was decisions that we made we just happened to be connected to these people and scoop them up, and they have stuck with us, and I'm really, really proud and happy that they come to work every day. I don't know what I'm doing to keep them, but I'm so grateful. um, I have very little to say on that front. Josh is also head of our HR, and he does an incredible job with driving community, letting our workplace be a place that real humans can actually say no. We really don't want to make our people feel like we own them. So they can work whenever. This is a post-COVID world, so people need that freedom. They also need the freedom to go to Europe for a month. That's fine. Like, we try and keep enough uh, contractors in our world that our employees can go away and nothing, falls apart. And so, yeah, keeping a lot of contractors around is very practical, helpful, tangible, for getting us through the highs with the agency life where, you're slammed with too many projects, and then the lows where you're like, I don't know, we don't have anything. Sorry. I
it
want to
sounds
say
like,
about moms, if I can. We happen to, for whatever reason, maybe because Josh and I are both parents separately, in our own family units, we happen to scoop up a lot of moms and allow a workplace environment that can accommodate nap times and schedules like that. And I'm really proud of that, and I want to continue it. So I think not just working moms, but working parents have so much to offer, but they can't do the conventional stuff. That's why I do my job. That's why I became one of the reasons I became an entrepreneur, because I didn't need a boss breathing down my back. I knew I wanted kids, so I knew I wanted flexibility in my day to day. So anyway, that's final point.
yeah, no, that's what I was going to say. Is it sounds like your philosophy on like how you treat your talent is the way that you wanted to be treated, and you and your partner, you wanted to be treated at the agency you were at initially.
Right. Yeah. No, I hadn't thought of that, but you're right. I've always wanted to be treated like, I'm gonna get my work done. Don't worry about it. Like,
Yeah,
but I'm gonna go play volleyball for an hour.
yeah,
um,
absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah, it's like treat me like an adult. I am an adult, but I also have responsibilities aside from my job, and I'm going to I'm going to put in my work. I'm going to get the job done. But it doesn't feel great when you feel like you have somebody looking over your shoulder to make sure that those 15 minutes weren't wasted or something like that.
Yeah.
So
You know,
100%.
even today, we have a new contractor who doesn't understand our culture yet, and I wanted to make sure she understood that she can say no. And she's a contractor, so we can't, but we had an urgent request come through, and I was the one funneling it to the contractor. And it was like we have this file by 11 a.m. and need it done by 5 p.m. situation. Um, I wrote a message that said, here's the situation, like, tell me to go to hell right now. Like, that's totally fine. But number one, you can always say no here. Number two, if you say yes, there's always a reward. And that's something I really like doing too. I'm a big gift giver. So we have a thanks account, we have a giftogram, and we send little things a lot where it's like, okay, Cassidy covered that urgent request immediately. That was so cool. She had to do it on her lunch hour because she was at her other job. Amazing. Here's a coffee. I mean, it doesn't have to be much, but it's enough to feel noticed, and that you like, nobody wants to do urgent stuff every day. So when you do it, and when we do say yes to clients that rarely do that to us, we want to accommodate it, but then we want there to be a payoff. So
Yeah, you're basically just saying, thanks for jumping in this tight situation. Honestly, that's probably makes it more likely that when other situations come up in the future, that people are going to be more likely to be like, oh yeah, I'll help out with that, because they know that there could be some potential reward. Yeah, right. Well, it's a lot better than being like, you're already getting paid, just do it, like, almost kind of like, cracking the whip. Like, nobody enjoys that.
no, no, that's true.
Awesome. Well, this has been really great. I appreciate you coming on. What's the best way for people to connect with you and follow up with you?
I'm pretty active on LinkedIn as Meg Schlabs. We're as a company at wizardly.co, and that's it.
Awesome. Well, thanks again for coming on and telling us more about your agency journey. And yeah, looking
You.
forward to
Thanks for
staying in
having
touch.
me. Yeah,
Yeah,
sounds
of course.
good. Thanks for the chat.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.